A great new feature that we are starting to see in a lot of no-code tools is the inclusion of pivot tables. Pivot tables allow us to look at data and compile it across rows and columns so that we get a better understanding of what we're looking at. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how you can leverage the new pivot table elements inside of Noloco, one of our favorite front-end builders. So if learning more about pivot tables in Noloco is of interest to you, stick around and let's get into it. Welcome back to the channel. This is Gap Consulting, where we help you unlock the full potential of no-code tools and get you out of archaic, rusty old spreadsheets. If you're new to this channel, welcome. Before we kick off into this video, I first want to invite you to join me for free training. Automation is one of the things inside of no code that's going to allow you to reclaim your time and really ramp up your productivity. And I've put together a free training specifically for no code automation. It doesn't matter what tool you're using. So go ahead and grab that training at gapconsulting.io/webinar-registration. You can sign up for free there with your email and get immediate access. But without further ado, let's hop on into my screen. If you are already a Noloco user, then of course, go ahead and open up and follow along with us. I am building a brand new app here from scratch. If you are not already a Noloco user, then please consider using our affiliate link that I'll share wherever you found this video. It's a really great way for you to show some love back to the channel, and it goes a long way for us and allows us to keep doing these videos. So here I am inside of Noloco. You would access this through your account. And I've said that I want to start building a new application. And most importantly, that I'm storing that data in Noloco itself. Now, most of the time on this channel, you're going to see me putting together my data in a third-party tool like an Airtable or a Smart Suite. But in this particular case, because I really want to focus on Noloco's pivot tables first and foremost, I'm going to be building the back end here too. And the nice thing about it is I can use their AI. So if you haven't already checked out the AI component inside of Noloco, this is the prompt I gave it. I'm just telling it, hey, I want a sales table where I have an amount and we have different status for that sale and different products that we're selling as well. And you'll see here that this is what was produced here for us by the AI. And now I have to decide if I want to go with this or not. And I do. This is perfectly fine. So let's go on to the next component. And that's how simple it is. Like, as I'm talking, Noloco is building the data structure for us in the back to support this information. And ideally, what I would be doing here ultimately would be sending this out to my team and allowing them to access the data inside of our database. Now, you can see here that I have already now, just like that, created my first component inside of my Noloco app, which is looking at my sales. And then over here, if I go down a level, I also have the ability to add new sales directly to my database. The database is a little bit hidden if you're not sure, if you're newer to Noloco. On the left-hand side here, I'm going to click on data, and that's where I'm getting access here. By default, I'm always going to have a user table. This is where I store the user information, who's allowed to access my application. They are going to be listed out right here. But here, one layer down, I'm inside of my sales, and you can see we have these three different sales components or three different sales elements. Now, before moving on, what I need to do is add more sales data here. I need more information with amounts, status, and products. And I'm going to go ahead and quickly pause right here and just add more data right to this database right here. All right, so now I have more data added to my table. This is going to be important when I leverage that pivot table. Now, I also want to highlight that I've included two single select field types here. I have a status field, which has three different options. It could be complete, awaiting payment, or pending. Pending being that, hey, we're kind of like brainstorming this payment. We don't know if we're going to actually invoice for it. Awaiting payment meaning, hey, we sent out an invoice, we haven't received it yet. And complete meaning we've received it. We're good. We're solid. Now, the other part here is product, right? So we also can look at what we're selling. So how are our sales doing on our different products? And right here, you'll see that I have only two different products, product one and product two. Now, usually for payment information, we're also going to have a date field. I have not added a new date field here, but we do have our created field. So this is marking the meta time that the records were created. So we can use this in place of an actual date field. field. We could, though, imagine that if we had other sales related data, that we actually mark different dates in there, like when was it received? When did we invoice for it? When did we create the payment? All of those different components. So we also have our amount field, and this is what we're going to actually sum. We want to look at our data across products and also across status based on the totals in those regions, right? In those different cross sections. So let's get back now into our app itself. Now that we're happy with the data that we're storing on the back end inside of our tables, we're now going to focus on how we show that information in Noloco. And right here we have our sales component. And if we select this piece on the right-hand side, you'll see that the layout is currently set to table. That is by default how this data was being pulled in when we first created our app through the AI generator. But maybe we don't want it here in a table, or maybe we want it in other additional view types, different ways to look at our data, especially as we deploy it to other team members. That's the whole point of building a no-code app, so that we can control who sees what and that they see what we need them to see. So let's imagine that we want to bring in a pivot table here. We want to help them summarize this sales data. We can do that by selecting pivot table from the layout. And this is a new option for us that was not previously available inside of Noloco. Now, before we actually see our data, we have to start setting it up. So down here in the setup, what is our row grouping and what is our column grouping? And then what is the value that we want to use to summarize the data? So for us, we have those two single select fields. We might look at those as a starter. We could say, I want to look at the status in rows, but I also want to look at the products in the columns. Now note that you can also add additional subgroups here. So I could add extra information if I wanted to, maybe something like the last time that this information was updated or the last time that this was created. So these two different dates, as we pointed out earlier, could be pulled into this. We could also access the users. If we deployed this app to a bunch of different team members and we wanted to analyze the data based on who was entering data or information, this is a field that we could use. For us, I'm going to keep it simple. I want to just mark on the status and on the product, but I do want to highlight that we can add subgroups to the column. Now for the last component that really matters here, we need to choose what we're valuing. What are we evaluating when we're subgrouping them in rows and columns? And for us, of course, we want to look at that amount. And we can choose to count the amount, that is to say the number of different times we find records that are in those subgroups, or we can do some sort of calculation to the amount. So for us, maybe we want to see the sum of data. So we're looking at the sum of sales information as it's grouped by rows of status and by columns of products. So these are the different components that we need to go ahead and set up here. Of course, we would also set up the navigation here as well, and a cover photo, as well as actions. We can take more advanced components here and say, when you click on elements of this pivot table, where do you go? Maybe you go to a different view. Maybe you go to a different page entirely inside of our app to look at a breakdown of that data. So there are options before us in terms of, how people interact with this. It's not just about setting up a pivot table. It's also what happens after that. We're allowing our users to analyze the data in a certain way, and then we can further empower them to take conscious action within the application. Now, in the center of my screen, you can see this starting to take shape already. If you are not seeing this showing up as you're making the different changes, do note that you need to have the row, column, and values selected in order for the pivot table to start taking shape. But then all you need to do is click done down here, and that's going to get you out of build mode and put you right into the working version of the application. And so you can see right here what we are working with so far. We have our two different products, product 1 and product 2. And then the third component here is sum, which I'll get to in just a moment. And then on the rows, we have our different status. So awaiting payment, complete, and pending. And you can see that what's in here is a summation of the different records that meet both criteria. So we have numerous records that have sold product 1 and are in the awaiting payment stage. And so that's what that number is coming from. The 275.50 is a sum of multiple amounts across different records that meet these two conditions. product 1 awaiting payment. Same thing with product 2 and the various status here. And then of course the sum here, this final column, is going to be the total of both products. And it's really nice that we can bring this in as well. Now, if you're curious about this sum, let's go back into builder mode. In order to access that, we can go Control E or Command Apple E, or just click on this icon right here. And that's going to open up build mode where we have the different building blocks on the side. And this particular summary row is showing up right here based on our settings. So after we chose the values, this is how we're going to be summing or articulating what is showing up here. Now, bear in mind, we chose the amount and we went with a summary to sum that amount, and we can close that toggle off, and that's going to remove that summary row at the bottom. I'll bring it back up for us just one more time so we can see it again. And what it's doing is it's telling us, hey, all of product 1 right here, summarized right here. All of product 2, summarized right here. What we don't have a lot of control over, though, is this column right here. It's showing us the type of aggregation that we're doing to the data. So for us, we chose to sum the different elements in here. And that is living here in the summary type. If we change that, let's say to an average, now we're taking an average of all the records that are in these different sections that meet the product and status cross section. If we were to implement a different summary type, we still have that final column, which is going to do the math on that particular row anyway. So we cannot remove that summary component. Even if we remove the summary row at the bottom of the screen, we still have this last one here at the side. So that is how to put a new pivot table into your setup inside of Noloco. Again, pivot tables, while they might not be the most common different type of chart that you're interested in looking at, they give you a lot of information. We can quickly and easily see by the summarization down here that we are selling a heck of a lot more of product 2. And we can see that a lot of our payments have been completed, but just as many are in the pending stage. So this allows us to kind of get those red flags and maybe take some action on this account, drill into this. And in order to do that, of course, we would want to set up what these actions are on click. What happens if I click here? I want to drill into the different sales that are, perhaps concerning to me at that moment in time. Hey, I know we went pretty quickly in this video. This is just a demo to get you up and running inside of pivot tables for Noloco. If there's something we didn't quite cover, feel free to swing by our website and let us know. And of course, if you got value out of this, it would be great if you could give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. That's it for this one. Thanks for watching. And in the meantime, keep on building.